Welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn with me and Gary, episode 14. What is this about? The show's about us blabbering about Christianity, business, politics, all kinds of stuff.
Whatever. No agenda. Could talk about anything.
You want to talk
pigeonhole yourself.
Election?
Yeah, we
BC
had our
election?
BC election.
British Columbia?
Listeners will listen to this on Wednesday. This past Saturday, we had BC election, provincial election, and very weird. Very weird. You were at my place. We were watching the election results come in, and
you forced me to go vote?
I forced him to vote. Some of you probably saw that if you follow Kyle on social media. It was very... Yeah, it was a nail biter, just like they thought. It was close. I mean, I think probably the majority of the population or would have thought maybe the NDP would have a majority. Yeah.
NDP is like the Liberals.
Yeah, they're the left
party.
If you want to start using those terms, I'd say they're the left. They are the left-leaning party. I would say that they're way farther left than they used to be. I mean, I grew up hearing about politics in our home as a kid in the Glenn Clark days in the 90s. And
have you always been into BC politics? Because I'm bored to tears.
No, I love it. Like, you're one of those people that follows American politics, and I despise that.
I don't actually follow that many politics.
Like, it does matter. Like, it matters. Obviously, every country's government matters. I just feel like people in our country should be more concerned about our politics than they should our neighbor to the south.
I voted.
Yeah, by force. Like, literally physically took you there.
I was kind of out of it from my root canal. But do you think it makes a difference much for you, like business-wise and stuff like that, being in BC, if the Conservatives or the Liberals get in? NDP, Liberals?
I think it's interesting I think because a free enterprise party like the Conservative Party would be more pro-business and less taxes for business. I think that they would be better for business in the long run. I think they're better for...
But there weren't any specific policies that you were...
No, and I don't look at it that way. I try to look at it non-biasedly and holistically. Like, even... It's interesting, even in... at the federal level, I mean, yeah, you got to put your own things aside. So I feel like...
What do you mean put your own things aside?
Well, you could, for instance, if you're a dairy farmer, if you're in supply management, and the Conservative or a party that I feel was maybe, hey, going to make policies that are healthier overall for our country, but they were going to get rid of quota, like, would I instantly vote for like the left-leaning party? No, I wouldn't. No. Like, I would just put my own personal, and I think that's what it means to be principled, right? And that's hard to do. Easier said than done.
Especially when it touches the money.
Especially when it touches the almighty dollar. But there's not enough money that you can have that makes you feel okay. And most of us are all trying so hard. Or I'll speak for myself. I shouldn't speak for you.
You're not there yet?
Well,
it's not enough?
It's not enough. It's never been enough.
Okay. Proverb of the week. Patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones.
Ooh, that's deep. That's deep.
Talk to me about that. Patience can persuade a prince, and soft speech can break bones.
Can break bones.
I think it lines up with just...
Can you read the verse before? Or the Proverbs are not like that, eh? They're just one-offs. It's not like you're getting context.
Actually, cookies. That's how I thought about it. I did 10 years ago, I did some course on the different writing styles in the Bible. How like Paul's letters are like actually like letters written to you as if you got a letter, and like different types, and how Proverbs were just like, they were single proverbs, and like thought of them like a fortune cookie. And it made me think of them way differently, because when you read like the whole chapter, you're just like fire hosed. But
yeah, it's fascinating. Like, even that first statement, I mean, I don't know if there's exact Proverbs, they don't come to mind in my head about, that would say the opposite, but Proverbs are like that, where there's, not that they contradict each other, but I mean, in one sense, patience. And then on other hands, the Bible says, hey, work hard, get at it, right? And,
you can work hard and be patient. I think it's just more in like when you're talking to a leader or something else like that. If you're trying to force your way, it's probably not going to work. But if you're patient and you're smart with your words.
Soft words, not
smart.
That is really, that's sage advice. I mean, how you say things, the tone on how you say it, how you present it is so important, and it's so hard. And the people that have a gift at it, they get a lot of things done, and they typically are, interestingly enough, get their way a lot more than somebody that is very sure they want their way and are going to steamroll their way. And that's probably what the proverb is saying, right? Like, influence. The break bone parts, I don't totally understand. Is that like literally just getting...
it just softens things. I think it's just...
Okay.
Yeah, I think you take time.
It's not my
especially
gift.
asking questions.
It's honestly not my gift. That's a convicting verse for me.
That's not true. You can blabber your way through anything.
I can talk my way in and out of jail, but I don't feel like I feel like if I'm talking to authority or if I'm struggling with something, I often get too agitated, and I wish I could be more. Yeah. I feel like it's a gift. You see people that are like, just stay calm. It is a gift. Yeah. Because most of the time getting worked up does not help. Actually, I would say almost, the bulk of the time.
Rarely.
Yeah. And there are times where you should be fired up. Anyways, great proverb.
Okay. What do we got here? We got some listener
We didn't
questions.
talk much about the election. Are you concerned? You don't care, eh? You're bored to tears, so you just want to move on? Do not care.
I don't know what difference it makes. Like, I mean...
It makes a really big difference. Like, the
coalition
between the Greens and the NDP will spend us into... I mean, we're already in the poorhouse. I think they're running a 6 or... The deficit spending is awful. And despite all the other policy, which, I mean, there's a lot of things...
I just don't know what to do with it. Like, let's say they win by 1 seat, the Conservatives or Liberals.
Like, what can we do with it?
Yeah, like, I mean, it sucks.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Pray for the leaders, whatever political party they are.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Vote, and go do your best and go work hard.
Yeah, just do your thing. Stay in your lane. Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
I'll remind you of that when Lion Kamala wins.
Actually, yeah. Okay. I got something from Daily Dad again. There's a guy's name is Ryan Holiday, if you want to look him up. It's a little bit of a quote here.
Okay.
Our kids are going to screw up, not just in the sense that they're going to knock over lamps or forget their lunch at school. Our kids are going to get sent home from school for fighting. They're going to get caught cheating on a test. They're going to call one day because they cheated on their spouse and are letting you know they're getting a divorce. This is what humans do. They screw up. They follow their stupid impulses. They get carried away. They try to get away with stuff. They break laws and make bad decisions, do bad things, and invariably, they face consequences for this. How will we, as parents, respond? We must respond with love and patience, with grace, even if we taught them better, even if we gave them advice that would have prevented it. I forgive you, Gandhi telegraphed to his son when his son informed him of an affair. Ask God to forgive you. As we've said before, Gandhi was often too hard on his boys, expecting from them the impossible standards he expected of himself. But in this instance, he got it right. We are not the judges of our kids, especially when they have grown. Our job is not to shame and punish them. Our job is to help them through life, even if that life is currently a mess of their own making. Our job is to make them feel loved, to let them know that it doesn't change how we see them, and that if they need something from us, we are always there. But most of all, our job is to forgive, to give them grace, as much grace as they need. I found this super convicting when I read this, because I think I expect I'm like way too impatient, and like they don't listen right away, and I'm like, come on, let's go, hurry up, or when they screw up and stuff like that, and I'm always screwing up, and I don't get someone else
should be patient, more patient,
way more patient.
Yeah, I know,
and especially when they're kids, little kids. Like I was talking about it with Nicole about it earlier, how I was getting annoyed that I was starting to feel my feelings more.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wish I would just shut off like before. I could just feel nothing. And about how we can do this to our kids by, if they're like loud or crying or whatever else like that, like telling them to shut up, get out of here, come on, get your crap together. And we're just teaching them to basically shut down, to have no emotions, to keep it all inside if we don't.
So do you communicate those? How would you, like I've had that exact example or situation happen in the last 36 hours, like over the weekend. And I basically, in that moment, so I do pray with my kids every night when I tuck them into bed. And so that's probably the one real connecting time I have where like I'm paying attention. I'm not looking at my phone. I'm not distracted by anything else. It's usually dark. I'm like just tucking them in. And I feel like in that moment, well, I'll always apologize. Like if there's, and it's usually the process of getting them to bed that really kindles my wrath sometimes, but it's just like, okay, I'll say, hey, I'm really sorry. That was completely unacceptable. I try to never say it was because you're an imbecile and you don't listen. I was just like, no, like just own it. Like just an apology is not an apology if there's a but after, right? Or because, or, any of that stuff. So it's just like, hey, I'm sorry. That was not okay.
I mean,
I don't even ask them to forgive me. I just say, hey, I'm really wrong. I'm sorry about that. And then I'll often pray. And in that prayer, I'll be like, hey, Dad needs a savior, just like you need a savior. We're all sinful. I'm trying to be like the other day, I said a word I shouldn't have said to my kid. And I mean, probably not the first time, but I'm just like, hey, that's just really, I'm teaching you horrible things. I'm sorry about that. So that patience is coming. Like, am I more patient? Like, I'm probably more patient than I was 2 years ago. I'm probably not as angry in those moments, but I still have a lot of those moments. I feel like it's not like they're not going to happen. It's just, it's a really special when you can, like, they'll remember the like, they need to be taught the lesson of, hey,
they'll remember the apology, but what they're going to remember more is if you're actually being patient. Like, because one thing I find myself doing is like, okay, I can keep apologizing for every time, like every 3 days.
Come unhinged. Like, yeah, no, that's fair.
Not even unhinged, but just like impatient. You know, like there's one of my journal prompts in the coaching I do is, do you tolerate or do you allow things? And often I feel like I'm just like tolerating my kids. I'm just like putting up with like their
agitation,
the fact that they're kids and stuff like that, instead of just like allowing them to be kids. And it reminds me of Jesus in the Bible. Like he wasn't annoyed at the kids. He was like he wanted them to come to him, and he wanted to spend time with them. And I think if we're just, kids can tell if we want them around or not, or if they're just annoying and we can't wait for them to like get out of our lives so we can go do our own thing. I think it's more that. I think it's a disposition of the heart of like, okay, well, are they actually that important to us, or are they in the way?
My kids always want to come with me. Especially my one kid. Just come with, hang out, spend time.
Yeah. I had this morning, I went to the driving range. I was planning to go by myself. And then I told the boys, and I'm like, nah, you guys can come with.
Kids are homeschooled too, so your kids are always there.
Yeah. And I had this whole week off.
Okay.
And so...
like no coaching calls this week?
Nothing.
Okay.
0.
Oh, wow.
All my stuff's going to go in my lockbox here soon until Friday. I'll have no technology for 4 days.
You are going to be short-circuiting.
Yes. I have my whole schedule written down on paper, so I can still go to different things.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Good for you.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, I'd rather just go by myself a lot of times. But just, you got to, bite your tongue and say, hey, what do you really want here? Like, what matters to you long term? Because they had a great time. They loved it. Kind of ties into our next question, listener question. I'm quoting now. I have a bunch of questions about your thoughts on work ethic, etc. that were actually discussed pretty well on the last show. I'm wondering if you guys can expand on that topic. Should everyone have a season of life, probably in their 20s or 30s, when work is their main focus that takes up all or nearly all of their energy and time? Does hustle culture have a place in Christianity? Also, how do you make the switch into a more balanced lifestyle after all your life you've pursued work financial gain as the number one purpose in your life, but are sick of it? You see Gary's face right now. He's like, no.
Wow, it's really insightful.
So I guess there's a bunch of questions here. Expand more on the topic.
Should there be a season? The first question I still remembering. Should there be a season when in your early 20s or 30s, your whole life revolves around work?
Yeah. That's how
I probably justified it a bit. You were pushing back pretty hard. I would still stand by what I said, but I mean, not entirely, like not
an excuse for sin.
Not an excuse for sin. That was a great line that was
about character defects, but I think also for this.
Well, no, it's the same thing. Yeah. And I think that, I think Dutch people, we pray about certain things, but we don't actually pray for direction, or we don't, like, you know what I mean? Like in the culture that we come from, like you don't pray about guidance for something and then expect an answer.
And we pray for safety on something we've chosen to do without asking.
Already. Yeah. Or that would be an example. I think we often pray without expecting answers. And I think that's wrong. I think that God, either will give a word from someone else, or, they'll become clear to us. Or I think that even on this, like, I would look at it in my life. It's like when my wife is perpetually feeling disconnected and like I'm not giving her enough attention, which often does happen even now, and I'm 40 now. We've been married 14 years. It's like, well then, like, my ideas don't even matter at that point. Like, if the person that you have been entrusted with to care for and make feel special doesn't feel special, well, then you are failing. So like, the idea of what, I thought about the balance wouldn't matter. And I think that's where you want to really be careful with stuff like this, is that every relationship is different. I mean, some women just have less emotional needs and maybe it's not as big of a deal. And some women need their husband or whatever to be home all the time putting kids to bed, because that's just by that time they're done, right? And so then as a man, that would be your job, right? Like,
but I think being in a community now of Christians that doesn't have many as Dutch people in it. I'll be part of like my small group and stuff like that, and there's guys there that they're happy making less than $100,000 a year and have like 4 or 5 kids,
and they're just content with less.
And there's their kids get way more time with them. And so I think it's also an expectations thing. Like we just expect to have a lot.
Well, and in our Dutch community, or at least how my perception there again, it's not fair to paintbrush because there's people that aren't like that, but like it's always about one next step. It's always about,
driven
your first house. A nicer house. An acreage is the epitome of I think
I'll be happy.
Yeah. Like,
but I think how it kind of started shifting for me was when I got coached for the first time. So I wanted to be MDT CEO. So I shared that with Martin, and he said, well, let's get you connect with a high-end coach out of Toronto and see if it's actually worth something, and see if that's actually what you want to do. And so I started the 10-week coaching program, which is the model I use now, and with Kim, my coach, and which was really interesting because she was she's a Jewish lady. She's like in her 50s, liberal, and I'm like, I'm selling firearms, conservative, very, very, very different, but
still a great coach.
Still a great coach because she's just asking you, what do you want, right? And so in week 2 of the program, she's like, what's most important to you? And I said, in order, and I said God, and then family, and then work. And she's like, okay. And then in week 6, she goes, Kyle, I think that's bullshit. She goes, I think work's first. I'm like, work's not first. She's like, no, work's first. All you do is work. Your actions show what you believe and what's important to you.
Your actions show what you believe.
Not your words. And then she's like, I don't care. Like, I'm a Jew. I don't care what you put first. Just don't bullshit yourself. And that coaching really, really helped clarify what I actually wanted, because everything was being challenged constantly, right? And like, why do you actually want this? Like, what's actually important to you? And if your behaviors aren't lining up, then you can't actually say that. And I think, if you want to be lots of times people want to be a good leader in their company, or, and they'll go to leadership conferences and all these things, like stuff like that, read business books and stuff like that. So if being a dad or a husband, things like that are important to you, like go do something about it. Go read good books, go challenge yourself, put yourself in positions where you can actually learn and change and stuff like that. Don't just say it and do nothing, get coached or whatever it is. Figure out what your priorities are and align accordingly.
Yeah. I think it's the other danger is that we associate with people that think like us, right? And so we tend to, we'll hang out with friends and groups of people, like even if we move to a new community, you would probably gravitate towards people that are somewhat like-minded. You would naturally find those people. It's not likely that you would all of a sudden, start hanging out with a whole different sphere of people. And we tend to, there's the old saying, tell me who your 5 closest friends are, and I'll tell you what kind of person you are, right? And that's true. Like, and I always challenge people that are struggling in life. They tend to hang out with people that struggle because they're more comfortable there. And I'm like, no, you need to put yourself out of your comfort zone. Find people that have what you want, even though you don't have it. That's what I did when I was younger. Find guys that are married, and find people that are working hard and they're successful and they've done well and they've, just have the type of life that I wanted. And then, hey, just spend time with them. And it's amazing how that, because you'll be just in communication and casual conversation, you're always growing, right? You're being challenged. Your thoughts are being challenged. Well, if you hang out with people that perpetually make stupid choices, they're not going to challenge you on your bad choices. They don't even know what a good choice is. They're just not that wise, right? And I feel like in this case where like if you're basically a workaholic or your life revolves around working and it's so easy to do, right? Because it's praised, because, being ambitious is praised, being successful is praised, right?
But also when you stop doing it after you've been doing it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it's just like, what do you go do?
Oh, and you feel lazy.
Yeah.
For me, like, it's like if my wife will like sing my praises on Sunday night when we have a marriage meeting, because Saturday I didn't work, like I spent time, and I'm like, that day was purgatory. Like that was the longest day of my life, right?
Exactly.
It's like, no, that is the right thing to do. It's just quality time. And
that would be a belief that you have. Like when you're not working, people have a belief that they're lazy. And so because they have that belief, they're going to go work. And so that's the belief that gets challenged. Like I
think it's way deeper than that. I think it's not even that. It's not about the belief. It's about innately as human beings, even if we have sound theology, our our belief theology does not line up with actually how we feel in our heart. So
then it's not a belief. Then it's just something you're saying with your head.
Well, fair enough. But I mean, there's a lot of that going on in our world, right? There's a lot of saying.
And in my own life too. I'm just saying that, like,
what I'm trying to get at is basically the idea, people are feeling good by their work is making them feel good, right? And most people have that. And to some degree, it's probably healthy. Yeah. Like, you should be proud of what you do and you should enjoy what you do. And you know what? If you didn't care at all, if people said, hey, that was a good job you did, I mean, so it's funny how there's always that spectrum, right? And typically we just can't stay in the middle. We go off into a ditch on either side, right?
But also, I mean, if you're like, this, like starting your own business and having a business, it's hard work, right? Like, you got to put the time in before you see results and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's the same with, like, you want to be a good dad or things like that. Like, you're not going to all of a sudden, like, want to make some changes and all of a sudden become super patient overnight. No. Like, it's going to take years to become patient. It's like, it takes time. Yeah. A long time.
Did we answer that question? Not really. Is there more to the question? What was the back part of the question?
The back part of the question was, how do you make the switch into a more balanced lifestyle after all your life you've only pursued work, financial gain as the number one purpose in your life, but you're sick of it? I think we answered that.
I feel like the other thing is, for me, I have a lot of other, and that's what my wife always says is the problem. Like, you just got to pick a lane. Like, you can't do the 3 businesses and the other stuff. But it's like, when someone says, how do you do the switch? Like, and I know a lot of guys even, in other Dutch Reformed churches, like they're either elders or they're volunteering or they're doing, they're helping in all kinds of causes, right? And there's 1,000. Like, nobody should ever just be sitting around too. That's the other challenge, right? Where it's like people.
No, I don't think that's the problem. I don't think they're going to start struggling with sitting around all of a sudden now. Like, you don't need to worry about that. Like, that's not going to be.
There are some people I know that
struggle with sitting around.
Yeah, just too content with not realizing that. Like, it's like, did I give away the John Piper book? Don't waste your life.
No.
Oh, it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah,
it's a great book.
Anyway, I think it ties well into the show's sponsor, though. Furiously Curious Coaching.
Okay.
Helping overworked business owners, leaders, and executives succeed without sacrificing faith, family, and free time. So I'm looking for 6 more guys to start my 10-week coaching program. They're starting on November 11th or November 18th. So if you're dealing with not enough time, one more email, one more call, one more job, one more sale, all that kind of stuff like that just never stops. Or your health is suffering from how busy you are. It's causing problems in your marriage, your faith life. You don't have time for your hobbies. And like, it just overwhelmed with the balance of things. And you still want to be successful in your business, whatever you're doing. My coaching program will definitely help a ton with that. I've had a lot of success myself with it and a lot of others as well. So if you're interested in that, you can text interested, the word interested, to 604-703-9045. And we can chat more about it, but it will definitely make a huge difference. And so my goal is to have 6 guys start at the same time so they can also interact with each other through the software I have and stuff like that, and learn from each other, which I think will be pretty cool, because most likely they'll business owners or executives in a business, and a lot of times you can relate to those things.
You say guys, do you coach women?
I do, yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. Mainly guys, though.
Okay.
The only women I coach right now it's all pro bono work, like for charities and stuff like that. It's not through the actual full-on coaching program. So anyways, yeah, interested in that, hit me up.
This week, I don't know if you had it on your notes, but when this podcast comes out, there will be a interest rate announcement on Wednesday. And for those like me that are deeply indebted to the bank, it matters. And it's going to be a 0.5% cut. That's my prediction.
Okay.
Bold.
So you're excited.
Jumbo rate. Yeah.
Back to money.
More money. Turn the money printers on.
Okay.
Let's get these asset prices up.
We got some good questions for overtime later about Halloween and stuff.
Dear.
Sign up for
Patreon.
Sign up for the Patreon. Support the show.
Is it about trick or treating?
We'll get there. First, we got 2 more listener questions, very similar to each other. As Christians, how many loopholes can we avoid paying taxes? Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, even if they're used for ungodly things like abortion, euthanasia, and all sorts of other evils. What are your opinions on income tax? Should we find legal ways to avoid it when possible?
Legal ways to avoid, yes.
Legal ways to avoid.
Yeah.
What about cash jobs?
I wouldn't put that in the legal camp.
I wouldn't either. Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's. What about the fact?
It's complicated. It's like
Watch your mic.
Yeah, I got to get away from the mic with my answer. A person that sees the world as black and white and is less nuanced for everything will see it as black and white, and there will be no gray. And another person will see things. I'm not saying it's a matter of conscience, because obviously not. You don't get to stand before a judge and say, hey, my conscience was clear in this, so I'm not in trouble. But, should a babysitter, somebody who gets paid $40 for babysitting, should they be claiming that? I mean,
up after 11,000, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's what the law says.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate it too that it gets spent on crazy things.
But it's not about that. That part doesn't. That part I can see, because it's like at the end of the day, we're not gonna it's the same as tithing. Like, if your church, if you felt like you didn't agree with every line item on your church's budget, that's not your concern. Like that, but the elders are going to wear that, and you just need to be giving generously. That's all God's going to ask you. Did you give generously? Right? He's not going to if you knew an organization was frivolously spending their money, you would, if it was your place, you would challenge that. But it's funny how people use things to justify their own sin, like somebody else's sin to justify their own, instead of just worrying about what they're called to do, right? So
be obedient.
Just be obedient. Be generous.
Do the right thing.
Pay your taxes. Yeah. I mean, the interesting thing is, as an entrepreneur, this is how I look at it, because I'm helping people sell farms. I'm helping two people right now. I'm working on selling very expensive farms. Like, you eventually pay tax. Like, you can avoid, when you talk about loopholes or, whatever words you want to use, or legal ways, like, if you're in growth mode as a business, especially in farming, you are not going to pay tax. You will pay no income tax. And then one day you will sell your farm and you'll pay $3 or $4 million in tax, right? All that will get paid. So, and because farmers or any other business are helping grow the economy, they're helping with GDP, they're hiring people, just my businesses alone, they're not even that big. I probably have 10 or 15 employees, there's tax breaks. But to say that, a person that, the people I respect the most are the people that just do the right thing all the time, irregardless if anyone's watching. They don't talk about it. They just, and so I think most of us would agree with that. It's just funny. Even me, I struggle with it. It's like, where is that line, right? And where, what is a legal loophole? Like,
ask your accountant.
How gray is it? No, don't ask your accountant. Just pray about it. Depending on who your accountant is, they'll give you a different answer. I just had this the other day. Some person called me up and they're telling me about what they had to pay. And I'm like, I have a great accountant and they're honest people, but they don't look at the law that way. They look at the rules a bit differently, and they interpret it differently. So that's why I say, it's to some degree.
I think that's one thing, but it's another thing to I think the reason this got asked is because I think it's quite common that people avoid
paying tax.
Yeah. Or just don't claim things.
Yeah. Okay. Let me take it a step further. Forget the cash jobs. How about if you're trading jobs? Now, is it okay because you're trading a job with someone? I'm doing this for you and you're doing this for me and we didn't exchange money. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying.
What is the law on that?
I don't even know what the law is.
The trading jobs things, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Want to trade a cow for some coaching?
My name's Gray Baars for a reason. My nickname.
Gray Baars.
No.
Yeah. But usually,
it's yeah. Pay to Caesar what is Caesar's. Somebody just told me that the other day. Somebody who works for me. Pay your taxes. I find now, so farming's very different, because you're on a cash basis, not an accrual basis. There's very different accounting rules. Whereas in real estate and these businesses, you just pay the tax, man. There's no, anyways.
Okay. One more thing here before we go into overtime. So, I have a theory on something. So I was talking to my counselor about this, how I was perpetually feeling guilty and crappy about the fact that I was failing as a dad and a husband, stuff like that. There was always more things I could do better. My actions show what I believe. So it just shows that in so many ways, I'm not a good dad yet, this and that. And I think I coach a lot of A types as well, very driven guys, don't want to be weak, want to be the hero, don't want to ask for help. And one of the common things is that they often always feel overwhelmed. So I was feeling overwhelmed with this. But I think when your morals are in the right place, it can seem like a pursuit of righteousness, right? Where you're want to be a good dad or whatever, good husband, good Christian, stuff like that. It can seem like you're always pursuing the right thing and that it's about, that your heart's in the right place. Then I was reading in the Bible last week, this verse that says from Jeremiah 17, 9 and 10, it says, "The human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? But I, the Lord, search all hearts and examine secret motives. I give all people their due rewards according to what their actions deserve." I was thinking about this. I'm like, if I was a betting man, for me, it's probably not talking to and a gambling addict here. No, but if I was a betting man, my issue is probably not that it's like a pursuit of righteousness for me, but it's probably more of a pursuit of wanting to be like God. Like I don't want to be weak. I want to be strong. I don't want to have any like problems and stuff like that, which is the original sin, which is like why Satan got sent out of heaven as an angel, because he wanted to be like God. He didn't want to be above God. He wanted to be like God. Same with like Eve. She got tempted. She wanted to be like God. And I was like, you know what? I think a lot of this like super drivenness is actually not often because we want to pursue the right thing, but because we want to be like God. And that's kind of realized that this week. I was thinking through it, which was very, it was humbling.
Control. We want to control.
Yeah.
I want to control everything. I don't like to admit that I'm like that, and a lot of people I meet are like that too. Moms, dads, trying to control their kids' behavior, control their financial situation. If
what
we
does
realized how little
what does not
control
control look like though? Because I think, what you focus on grows. If I tell you all the time, don't think about monkeys, don't think about monkeys, you're going to think about monkeys. So we talk often about things we shouldn't be doing, but what does
giving up look
like as a dad?
Giving up to win the war.
I think it's a little bit, it's letting go, like having peace in your heart and not like trying to be the boss. Because I think that's partly what my issue was as well. It's just like, hey, I can't be perfect. I have to say, God, I can't. I surrender this to you. Like I'm going to fail as a dad and in all kinds of other ways. And please help me still be faithful, but not like, I'm not condemned anymore, right? As a Christian, there's no condemnation for those in Christ Jesus. So I don't need to walk around like feeling like you piece of shit and like get your crap together. Like that doesn't help.
No, that definitely doesn't help. No, I always say you got to give up to win the war, right? And so like, what does that look like? And it just looks like surrendering, right? And even
what is given
on
up
Saturday night, well, like it's when the roof was leaking out, right? You're at my house, right? And we're having a monsoon rain, and I getting some work done on our house, and there was water pouring through the light in my house, right? Like just because of one spot it was coming in, and I just tucked Noah in. Like an hour later, there I went upstairs and I said, Noah, like just so you know that God's just he's just teaching me. Like he's just teaching me because I'm a perfectionist and I'm psychotic and everything has to be perfect and I get upset when it's not. And God's just saying, no, Gary, like it doesn't matter. Like you can still enjoy people being at your house. You don't need to be stressed out and freaked out. Put the hot and psychotic.
For you guys listening to audio, you have to watch the video version to get this part of it.
Kyle just put a hat on my head that said, I put the hot in psychotic. But I just like every time I hit a hard thing, and this is I've done this ever since I sobered up and I did the steps first time when I went to AA. When there's struggles in my day, and there's often struggles in my day and I'm challenged, I always think, okay, what is God trying? He's always trying to teach me something. I'm always supposed to be learning something. So every time I have a hard time,
you wouldn't say that. Someone would say like, "Oh, you're over spiritualizing it." Like,
no, I'm definitely not. Anyone that knows me knows I don't over spiritualize. It's just a fact. Like, challenges come for a reason, and either I'm putting energy into things I shouldn't be putting energy in, or I'm just not, like you said earlier, not being patient. I'm not realizing that my kids are going to be kids and they're going to scream and fight and yell, and that's just normal. For 6 kids, 10 and under, that's what a house is going to look like. And I need to be more patient with the screaming and, or I just need to not be so stressed out about all the deals I'm doing so I can put up with that noise. And I think even in financial hard times or whatever, either I haven't worked hard enough, I haven't saved enough, or I haven't made the right decisions, or God's just saying, hey, no, you're going to trust in me, even though those bills are not covered right now. Right. And I've had that too, where I was like standing in the mailbox, just praying for a check there. Like, so I literally
had that this summer.
You literally, and I've literally had that in my life many times. So I feel like there's always things to be learned. And I think we squander gifts, the things that suffering teach, when we are just saying, I just want my life to be comfortable. I don't want to, take this pain and suffering away from me. Right. And
I think that's a cool thing.
It's challenging.
When you're actually more and more obedient and do the right thing and accept the challenges, you will have more peace. Like when you try to control yourself, that's when you don't have peace.
Yeah.
When you're trying to just like push bulldozer.
Yeah. And I do often. I mean, I like, as a general rule, I'm just trying harder, right? And that just doesn't work. Like, and so that's where it was like, it was at the end of the auction.
How doesn't it work? Because it does work. It does work in the sense of financial success sometimes, but that
it ultimately brings discontentment and unfulfillment. Like at the end of the auction week, right, where we have a great auction, it was a successful auction. We fed 1,000 people. It was a fun night. Yeah. And everybody's pumped, and like the auction was, I mean, as good as an auction.
The line kind of sucked getting the food, but
I thought you said the line kind of sucked. Line.
No, there was no line.
That's too right. Yeah. Yeah, but at the end of the week, it's like, okay, like now I'm going to be disappointed about this. Like No, God's just saying, no, like, just let go. Like,
Be thankful.
yeah, even the line, like that stresses me out. Well, like, who cares? Like, it's just out of my control in that moment. And I want to blame, and I have all kinds of excuses, and Heritage Park made us do that. And I want to give them a 1-star review. Maybe we still will.
I was actually staying in line. I was gonna text you like, Gary, what is going on? I'm here for free food. I was like, that's actually a loser thing to say. I'm gonna ask him, how can I help you?
Yeah. So we improvised a bit, but we get in trouble. But I don't know that at the end, I think it's just like, yeah, what do we learn from suffering? Right. There's a lot to be learned in that.
Anyways, we're gonna head into overtime. We're past their 30-minute mark already again.
I also feel like I should mention, now that I've said it, is like a bit of water in the house is not suffering. Like, there's people that really do suffer. So
that's right.
Now I feel like,
we just did freedom sessions going deeper last week.
People have a lot of struggles, man.
Man, suffering. Okay, we're gonna give a book away as well in overtime. The Smartest Guys in the Room. That is not this room. That's the book.
That is not this room.
So, anyways,
two dummies in the barnyard.
Thank you very much for listening. It's
Have a great
very much
week.
appreciated. Talk soon. Bye-bye. Thanks again for listening to another episode of The Briefcase in the Barn. As always, really appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, share it with social media, any of that stuff. It helps a lot. Also, if you like the content and you're benefiting from it and wouldn't mind supporting the show, patreon.com/Furiously Curious. I'll put a link in the description as well, or you can find that link in any of my social media bios. You also get access to overtime episodes that way. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you guys next week.